What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Better Broken Podcast. In this episode, I'm proud to bring Trevor on from 7th Group, longtime Green Beret. I think that's doesn't do him service to say Green Beret, just Green Beret. I think there's so much more to that. There's so much more to this man. I've been sitting next to him for the past 45 minutes just having a conversation, and it's been one of the best I've had in a really long time. I 100% do find myself in a mentoree position sitting across from you because I wish, honestly, I had someone like you in group when I was in, especially if you were my leadership. I probably would have been in a lot longer than I was if you were, because clearly you want to have a positive influence and you care about the regiment and you care about the people that you serve. So we're going to get into all that. First, I have to say real quick, guys, my book, Better Broken, is now available for pre-sale. So no pressure, but if you want to support me and what I do, and if you have a broken past and you want to learn to use that to your advantage, please go check it out. Consider getting it. But no pressure, no big deal. But now let's focus on Trevor and jump into his story. Okay, before we jump into your story, though, which your story... I got set the TED Talks that you did, which good on you, man. That was insane. Yeah. Like to do a TED Talk is like what the highest echelon of individuals that have a story do. It's like when you've established yourself as someone that really, really has solid ground to stand on, you go do a TED Talk to give people that information. So for you to start out with a TED Talk, and the first thing we get is a TED Talk, not like like me, where it was like 100 podcasts that was like on a cell phone and all this stuff. And like, we're just like horrible quality. You're just starting out with a TED Talk, and then 2 minutes in, I'm like, holy shit, dude! This dude is this dude's better broken, bro. But before we get down to all that, we were having a conversation, and I kind of want to hit that first because we started talking about the Army seeking out guys like us, seeking out guys that have had rough upbringings and essentially weaponizing us.
Yeah. I can see that.
But so what's your thought? Where were you going with that? And how I've never realized, I never thought personally, I thought I kind of fell into this role as I really want to go special operations, and they accepted me with open arms. And here you are kind of offering a different perspective as maybe they didn't accept you with open arms. Maybe they targeted you.
I think that a lot of the separate things can be looked at in different ways. But before all that, I appreciate you having me on. It means a lot to me to be able to share my story and my perspective on all the things that I've been through, to offer some knowledge and some wisdom to people who may potentially want to go into special operations, either whatever branch that may be. That like let's see what the end kind of looks like, and we'll get to that in a bit. But so why does the Department of Defense, seek out or want people who have come from a broken past? And so, to me, it's we can tolerate a lot of negativity. We can tolerate a lot of hard times that a lot of people who maybe from here in California came from the Valley and haven't experienced anything that's hard, that as we see it, there's financial problems, we have broken families, we have drug abuse, we have alcohol abuse, we have gangs. We've surrounded ourselves with there's really tough, hard people until we're 18. If I went to college, you went straight in. But so you get a young person who's been living on the streets, hustling, and now you're going to be like, gonna mold that guy into something that we can put out into the world to kind of do those same type of meddlings that they grew up in their neighborhood.
The same type of meddlings. I love that.
So I mean, and in the height of the war and the GWAT and all this, like compared to right now, what's happening in the climate of the military. Like in 2010, like what were we doing? We're fighting in Iraq, and we're fighting in Afghanistan in some really tough neighborhoods. And you're going to say that we want the guys with the cleanest background to come and go fight in those neighborhoods? I just don't think it's not a possible thing. It doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense, right? So to say that we want people with a broken past to go fight for America is absolutely the truth, because we don't want the brightest, the richest dying for America. Why? Like, let's just lose the people that are from a place that they won't be remembered. I mean, to me, that makes a lot of sense. But we're sold on something that's a little different than what that sounds like. We're sold on, like, we can change people's lives. You can free the oppressed. And that means a lot to a place where we've been oppressed our whole lives. And like, you're telling me I have the ability with 11 other guys to change the course of someone's life. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
It's pretty cool. And, we get to do it. And we got to, really be able to see that impact firsthand. And so that's why I think it's very plausible that in the selection process that the guys that don't quit is because there's this driving force that has been grown inside us since we were little that can't be bought, can't be, picked up at a store. It is ingrained into who we are as people, and you can see it and you can smell it. That resonates off of those guys that come from fucking bad places. It's really easy to see after the days of no sleep and no food or limited of stuff. Like, the guys that in their eyes that you can see that there's pain in that soul that we want. And like that guy, and as my time in the service and in the regiment, like I start to understand it a little bit better than I did when I was in selection. Is that type of guy will give his life for someone else, and it's either the guys that go through RASP or go to Coal Range or go to CAG selection. Those guys are willing to give their whole entire soul and body for someone else to live. Mm-hmm. And of course, we want that. That's who we are.
That's the point.
Yeah.
But it's you almost want to tell yourself that you're the only one that knows that, though. And I think that's kind of the hurtful part about it when you made it so obvious, is I didn't want it to be obvious. Mm-hmm. I want me to know I'm damaged and me to know why I will die for a stranger. But I don't want necessarily the cadre to see that and to use it, because then it changes the dynamic. It changes the perspective of it. I wouldn't change it. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't change it, but it just hurts my feelings a little bit. And when you said, and it made even more sense, because you're like, think about it like a unit that needs to be on standby, ready to deploy. And does the command really want to know what's going on and really want people to be honest about how much they're drinking or what they're doing or how, dude, it hasn't even been that long. And I say this with shame, that I've been to a bar and try to really, really hurt somebody. And I know that that's just the pent up trauma and all this stuff that could be used by others. But it's like, you're right. Do they want that to be fixed, or do they want it to be just below the surface enough until they decide to use it?
I think that threshold of going too far needs to be managed, right? The commander needs the guys ready to do bad things at a moment's notice, but to stay at that elite point, he does not want to know what's happening in the team room, because if they do see it, they know it, they're bound by something that makes them react to the behavior that is happening. I want those men to be behaving that way and living that life, because there's going to be a time they may be called to go do something where that lifestyle is 100% needed. And if you've been in the position where I think most of the commanders of today have been in as team leaders throughout the last 20 years or so of war, they know what's needed to be there to do the missions that are going to be asked of these men. But they don't want to be open about it. It's so you're bound by the rules of the military, but inside you, we have to have the men that are willing to bend into that gray area, right? And which is hard, I think, for some Green Berets coming back and operators to where there's the black and white and the rules of the Army, and what that commander and that team sergeant are bound by as those leaders. That we want to be like, well, we acted and did certain things while we were deployed. Why isn't it the same way here? Well, and that's kind of the struggle, I think, with the GWAT boys is like, we lived the life for so long in a certain way, and I'm not able to live it here. And there's this tension that is growing inside us that I want to go back to living wild and free. Because it's addicting. That living style is the freest we'll ever be. And we want to always fight to get back to that. But I think you can fight for that here if you use some good reflection and perspective changing.
Yeah, you can't relive that here for sure. Like not in that kind of way.
Right.
And it's again, you're kind of like mentioning things that I didn't really like think about. But you're like wild and free. Oh man, like, is war wild and free? Like, you have a gun, you have freedom, you have a mind that's been molded for what you're about to do and what you're about to see. You're getting shot at. They're trying to kill you. You're allowed to kill another man, which is just an insane thing to say. Is like, yeah, go kill him.
Right.
It's like they're just saying, yeah, go kill as many as you can.
Yeah,
that's a wild thing. And then so to go into that and then like live and breathe the fear, the anxiety, the fun, the freedom of that is the closest thing to being like what people think of here, like an outlaw motorcycle rider that's like barreling down the open road at 150 miles an hour, weaving through traffic with no rules. That's the addiction of. It's crazy. It's definitely an addiction of war.
So Hunter S. Thompson, when he wrote his book about the Hells Angels, there's a part in this book where he's talking about living on the edge, and I see it as the riding your motorcycle in the middle of the night as fast as you can go, and you feel like you're on this edge of a cliff where if something goes wrong, I fall to my death. If not, I'm standing straight. But you're in this kind of weird space where you don't know if you'll fall or if you'll make it to the end. And that's what deploying does. Every single time you get on a black helicopter, every time you step outside of that fire base, you're on this edge where you just don't know what's going to happen. And it's a thrilling high that is the same as I see the guys in an MC. Is that you're living a life outside the rules. And it's really powerful. And it's addicting. And it's the drive to why I want to go back to that high again, that feeling that being there gives you.
It's almost like you if you go here, you're a 1%er MC member and you're a chapter in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And then the minute you get home, you're a corporate suit that puts on a tie and goes to your desk job and has all the strictest rules on the planet. And then you're supposed to somehow mix those two seamlessly without having any psychological trauma or desire to want to go back and be a 1%er again.
Yeah. That's it. Figure that out.
Yeah, figure it out.
So now do that year after year.
Right.
And you can keep it together for a while.
But you're living a lie, bro, because you're just biding your time to go back to being a 1%er again.
Right. So then what do you find to make you a 1%er in different things? And so how can I position myself to be that 1%er again? So that's what I like. How many SF guys go work at one of the advanced skills, right? So dive school, Halo school, range 37, so for Cephalic, doing CQB stuff. So that's the next drive. Like if I'm going to go to SWIC, I'm going to the best of the best. You have to. Because if not, like why would you go to SWIC? Like I'm going to go develop a skill that only, like in Key West, there's 20 guys. 20 guys get to go down there every 3 years. And then all the divers in the group and the regiment. And you get to be one of those guys. Like that's, back to the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, however you want to calculate that. So to become a part of that elite people who go to that is pretty cool. And so that's the next thing. Like, well, I can't go to Afghanistan and do that job anymore. Well, at least I'm here in another elite position. That's pretty kind of cool. So then what do you do after that? And so then you slowly make your way into positions where there's only so many. Where on an ODA, there's 12 guys. But at SOCOM, there's only, say, out of that whole entire headquarters, there's only this position for 3 or 4 guys that are 18 Zulus to go work there. And so now let's go work at the different TSOCs in different places. So how are you now putting yourself into a position where that you can be that 1% again, if we're gonna like take that model and look at that. So now you're becoming the best of the best of the best. And I think that's a good drive for some folks, and might be able to give someone some more direction outside that team room if they're saying that being on an ODA is no longer something that is providing me that direction into like that if eliteness, right? So if we're not going to be able to fight right now, what can I do to still be a part of something that's happening that's meaningful? And it's out there, but guys have got to be willing to leave that team room.
That's a hard thing to do.
It's very. I think so.
The atmosphere in there is. It's a fraternity. It's something that's you can't replicate. It was one of the, and I didn't spend long there. Like full disclosure, never going to try to admit that I did. Never going to try to be more than I am. But I'm so glad I got some of it to go into that team room and crack beers at the end of the day at work and like look at these guys and be like, I'll fucking die for you, bro. And know like they'll looking back at me and be like, yeah, bro, I got you. Like we can go be 1%ers and do the craziest shit and trust each other. But yeah,
I think there's some complacency that sits in the team room though after a while. Because how long does it really take to know everything you need to do on a team?
I would say like 2-3 years. Right.
And so if you're like, well, I spent 10 straight years on an ODA. I'm like, what did you do? That's not development. That's not any change.
Right? A lot of years coasting.
You got stuck in a place where you know it's comfortable and easy. Because outside of here is hard. And I'm extremely grateful, guys who have spent a decade on a team. And I think those are some of the guys that probably have the hardest time with identity and leaving is because they never left the whole time that they were a Green Beret, and might struggle the most after they leave is because they never had any breaks from that team room.
And you're so true, because when we had those senior guys, like we had a Delta on our team that was like 9 years, and it's like unheard of amount of time. And it's like, yeah, you trump everyone in here, but dude, you're on autopilot because you've been there, done that on this team so many times. You've seen team sergeants come and go. You've seen team leaders come and go, team members come and go, that you're just bored at this point. And we all see that you're afraid of what's waiting you when you walk out of this room, and you're no longer the big man on campus.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I think that guys have to be proactive in finding something that they're bad at, that they need to spend time in becoming good at and an expert in. I understand a team life. I understood about diving. I had no idea what the strategic implications of being a SOFLI in Africa or working at SOCOM in the SIGITF. No idea. But when I got into those positions, I read a lot, I asked a lot of questions, and I became the best person I could at that job. And that's all I needed to do. I didn't have to be on an ODA to have it be fulfilled, because when I was there, I was the best at being an echo or a special forces communicator that I could possibly be. I learned about it all, and I loved doing that job. But when I got in a new position, I learned how to be the best at that. And then go into SWIC and be like, how can I be the best instructor? How can I evaluate the candidates as best as I possibly can? How can we make sure that the standards are staying the same for every single class that we're doing? Like, I am going to be the best instructor possible. And that's all that matters. I'm not going to be like, well, all these guys are going to Afghanistan and fighting still. Like, that's not the purpose of what I have right now. And so people are getting stuck back into be like, well, I hate being here. Why do I have to do a SWIC tour? Why am I getting on, why do I have to PCS and all this? Like, they're doing these things to me. Like, let's reverse that back and say, okay, I got selected to go do something that's really important to the regiment. Let me become the best person at that I absolutely can. Let me develop myself to be the best instructor possible. Maybe I might learn some skills that I might be able to use later on. For me, I hated talking in front of people.
Ironic.
Right?
Yeah, you did it.
But the 3 years I was in Key West, I stood up and talked to 60 guys. And how do you, and every day, stand up and use your voice, communicate something. What's that intent? And this is what expectations are. And then just deliver that and develop that and not have to read off PowerPoints and just be able to speak and clearly and have people understand what you're saying. So if you find something that's there that's meaningful to you and stop looking back at it and saying and stop saying all these bad things because I got put here, without my will, or I get the sergeant major put me on the levee to go to SWIC, and fuck the regiment, fuck all these people just hate me and this and that. Well, okay, maybe they do hate you.
They probably
possible.
do hate some of you.
But all right, but there's could be some positive things that come out of this. Like moving my family was an incredible event. We talk about team building events and selection. Like that team building event for your family is really important to do. Not as much as the Army does for some people, moving every 24 months kind of thing. That's a bit excessive. Mm-hmm. But once a decade is probably pretty good for you and your family to do. To get rid of all your shit, have to come together as a team to move from A to B. And that's how I see us as people, is like we're migrant people. Mm-hmm. Let's move and surround us into a new experience in a new community, and not have to go reach out and meet new people. And that's kind of what's inbred in us anyway as Special Forces Green Berets, is go build rapport. Mm-hmm. And now you get to tell me I get to do that again in a new community. How incredible. And so this refusal to PCS, I think is hindering people's experience with their family. I think it's super necessary to go through. It builds you, and it helps you grow together rather than being stuck in the same spot.
I've almost become addicted to it a little bit, and I've had to fight it in my recently. Like I'm telling the wife, I'll come with, we'll be having a cup of coffee in the morning, and I'll be like, what if? Mm-hmm. What if, we sell the house and then we go back to Colorado and we do this? And she's like, okay, but then we're pulling the kids out of school again, and we're going through this mm-hmm. hypothetical situation, and then we get to the end of it, and luckily, current interest rates and things like that have made that all poor decisions. Yeah. But it's gotten to us to the point where now we've had to fight that a little and go, okay, there's a time to move, mm-hmm. and there's a time to settle in and really embrace what is here, and fight the discomfort of mm-hmm. making something long term, instead of always having that feeling of it's just temporary.
Yeah. The best part about, I think, all of that is that this conversation between you and your wife happens.
Yeah.
These are the way I'm feeling. Let me offer it up. What are your thoughts on it? And let's have a conversation about how it's possible, why we should or we shouldn't, what are the impacts on our children and our family and all that. If you do that for everything that you got in your life, it's gonna be pretty amazing dynamic between your family. I really think that is that communication piece about, what are the pros and cons of us going here. I mean, this came up after we left Key West. I was like, I would love to go back down to Key West again. And my wife was like, well, how about the school system? Right. Are they going to be able to meet the things of our needs of our children at the age that they are? And I'm like, oh, no, not so much. She's like, are we just doing it because it's going to make you happy? Okay, true. So how about we go, to 7th group and go there, look at all the things that we can have. The school system's good. The mental health facilities are good. The access to different professionals are phenomenal. So what isn't there in Key West? So looking at all of those type of different things, as a family unit, is super important to be done. That is possible because of hard times, in a sense, mm-hmm. that there was a long time where that communication was broken, where we were just on autopilot in a sense.
And they didn't have a choice.
And so
it's like, hey, we're moving here. Suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. At least we get some choices.
Yeah.
That's just like, at least someone's coming to say, hey, we need you to go do something. Hopefully someone's saying, like, asking and saying, these are the different positions we have available. What would you like to do? And not just being told. Like, if you're being told to go do something and you haven't already expressed your desire to have a key development move, then you're failing yourself. Right? So the only person who cares about your career is you. No one else does. So if you are not open and planning your future, someone else will do it for you. And I don't want anyone to have control of me and my family. So if you know that there's a certain place you want to work or something, you just continue to always tell someone, this is what I want to go do. So that there is not this conversation I got to go home and say, hey, we're going to somewhere we won't fit in with, and we're just being told we're going to go back to North Carolina kind of thing.
Yeah, and we can't find the positives in that. No. And when I was graduating the Q, they're like, you're going to fifth group. And I was like, I have nothing in fifth group. Like, there's all the other groups I could find positive things about. The one that I can't is fifth group.
Yeah.
So I wrote a sergeant major in 10th group and was like, sir, my dad lives like 30 minutes there. I've never met him. Like, I met him once when I was like 14, and it was a short, really tumultuous relationship that we had. I would like to rekindle that. And he's 30 minutes, which is all 100% true. And I didn't think he would even read it.
Yeah.
Orders changed, dude, like that. And I was like, that's amazing. So the 10th group sergeant major at the time, it was 2010. Was it 2010? No. 2013, something like that. And he was like, I just wrote him this email. He changed it. My orders changed, and I got 10th group. And I did everything I said I was going to do. I rekindled with my dad and, like, met him, and we ended up having a relationship for a short while before he moved, and it broke again. But it was cool that he was human at that moment. It wasn't a cog on the wheel.
Yeah.
He listened to my story, and then, of course, Cadre came out after. They found out that I had done that and told everyone, like, don't, all of you, I don't know who did it, but don't email sergeant majors. And I was like, it doesn't matter because I already got it. It worked.
So don't be afraid to make other people work. That's their job. They just being a hassle for your own life is someone else's problem.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Not yours.
Like, why should I have to feel bad if this makes my life better? Yeah, you're right.
You're going to go live your life. And if you are the only person fighting for it, which is generally most of the time in the Army, you're doing the right thing. Right? It's like being loud and slamming the table about this is what I want for me generally happens later in the regiment career, right? For the beginning part is that we're just show up, be quiet. You don't have a lot to offer because you have zero experience.
Right.
So why are you trying to fight for yourself? I just don't. So to be able to do that early on, I think is super important, that you can fight for who you are. I just make sure you choose your battles wisely, and there's something that's valid and worth something, and not some pity fucking bullshit.
Right.
When you're like, this being there affects me and my family forever. So like if you have EFMP and they don't have services for your kids there, that's absolutely a time where you say, I can't fucking go there because of this, and I will speak up and be loud about it. But if it's just like, I don't want to live in Clarksville, fuck off. Like, that's bullshit. And I wouldn't take that to someone. But if there's truly something that will affect your life for a long period of time and the dynamic that you live at home, you absolutely stand up for that.
And I think to this, like in my entire like short SF career, that was the only time I said, please.
Mm-hmm.
The only time. Other than that, they sent me whatever team they sent me to. I went, I did everything they told me to do. I was so grateful for that opportunity that sergeant major at that point was like agreed on it. But and it did have that life-changing effect. It sent me to a place where there was actually some kind of unit, family unit, instead of just another random place in a country where my wife and I. But anyway,
so that kind of takes me into like talking about this whole like journey of mental health and how people that are surrounding you come to aid when shit gets crappy. That there's a lot of, I tend to hear like there's a lot of negative things that have happened to guys because they went and got help. And there's some here and there that I can add through my experience, but the amount of people who came to help from the leadership that I had in the regiment is unreal. So for someone to struggle with having mental health issues and it is hard for me to understand because of how many people wanted to help me when I was like, this is the most important thing to me right now. And I want to live, but everything inside me is dying. And like the people who were able to be compassionate and willing to help is really incredible. There's a lot of unknown that goes into that initial step into that, behavioral health atmosphere. And the biggest thing that has to be known for if you're gonna go that route is there are repercussions for your actions, for sure.
For the behavioral health.
Yeah. So if you have a suicidal incident, so the first time I felt like I was going to commit suicide was in 2015 when I was at Fort Bragg, when I was on active duty. And I didn't understand about what a medical psych waiver was. I didn't know that was a thing. I thought that if I'm like, I want to die and I commit myself to the psych ward, that I'll be able to just spend my 5 days there and I'll go back to the team and there shouldn't be a problem. Mm-hmm. Well, let's like unpack that a lot, right? And especially within the strategic element of who we are. And that's where the unknown of getting help has consequences. It's not necessarily, that's not consequences in a bad word, right? It's just now you have to go through the steps of getting better. And it's not hard. It's just now you have additional things that you have to do so that commander will say, yes, deployable. And so because I went to the 6th South at Fort Bragg at Womack Hospital, they say you have 12 months non-deployable. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? How in the fuck can you take everything I just fucking did in my life because I went and asked for help? When I was 35 then, 34, I didn't understand this bigger picture of risk, and time develops that in my understanding, like how that plays a role in who we are. And so looking at it as one single person as a risk and saying, this guy just said that he's a drug abuser and abuses alcohol and feels like he wants to die. Now, on the other side of it, you're going to be like, this guy wants to deploy, and do you think that he will be safe for himself and for other people? Because if anything happens while that guy is gone, it's a strategic implication that will most likely go straight to the president. And as we've been through the military, this shit fucking rolls down, right? So if you know that there's a possibility that something bad can happen, would you send that guy? And so you have to take ownership of getting better on yourself. And so by meeting with the behavioral health physicians and social workers, you start to create a pattern of wellness that shows data that you are getting better, right? But for me, I was getting help to get better for the boys so that I could go and show them that you can have a mental health incident, suicidal incident, and be able to go back and deploy again. And so that was the drive that for me, like, this is the fire in me to go get help so that I can show the whole fucking group that you could fucking be in a place that's so bad and go back and do the fucking job. And I did it. And it took me a lot away from the team because I had to go to appointments and I had to go to all this extra shit. But it was worth it because I showed myself that if you put in the fucking hard work, you can go back and do the things that you fucking love. And that you just have to know that there's going to be a time requirement and a data requirement to show that you're better. And that's like what I want to share with people is that, like, you can go get help, but as this huge corporation, this huge Department of Defense, they want to make sure they're sending the best and right guys all the time. And you have shown that you've had a break in who they thought you were. And so now you must show them, prove to other people that now you're back to a place where you can perform at a high level again. And so what are you doing to show that, right? And so how does that commander take all that data and say, hey, okay, you are now capable of going in a place where you're going to be all alone and you're not going to do something bad. And so that healing of that is that own person's journey that they must go through on their own. And it's possible to get better from that. And maybe you're okay for a few years and shit gets bad again.
What do you think, I don't mean to interrupt you, what do you think would happen if you didn't seek help in that time?
Oh. I think I would have slowly decayed inside, and my will to live would have just been dissolved inside. I think the ability for me to reach out of the dark part of me would have almost been too far gone if I wouldn't have stopped and got to the point where my soul would have just been black throughout, and a constant, not just like every once in a while after like 3 days of binge drinking. It would have just been this, no matter what, alcohol or not, I would have just been in this place where I felt I had zero value, that I could provide zero love to my kids, to society, that I now was a threat to everything else in the world. And that's how I viewed myself when I would start to become like these low, deep parts of me, is that I wasn't going to be able to provide at a high level that I once did. And I was, if you want to like identify a threat, have we been shown, like, do they have a weapon? Are they trying to have an intent to hurt us? That's how I started to evaluate my own self, is I'm not a good father. And I start to believe these things in my own head. I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good person for society. I'm not a good Green Beret. All these things start stacking on it and just pushing everything down. And it convinces me that this life isn't worth living. And it's just a bad cycle that just eats the fucking living shit out of you. And at that point, you just, there's no light to have, and you just want it all gone. All you feel is pain, and pain after years and years and years just rots inside you, and it's really easy to want to extinguish it.
That's intense, man. And I feel like, do you think that the operators that we're losing regularly, do you think that it's getting to the point where they feel like if they end it, they're doing everyone else a favor?
Yeah.
That's their mindset?
Yeah.
And I think I'm very curious about that, only because I've had all the trauma and been through all the hardship, but though I think maybe the one thing that I don't have is the desire to end my own life. I'm afraid of death. And like, to me, it scares me. That just scares me to try and end it when I already am afraid of how short it already is. But that's just my mindset. So when I think about these other operators and knowing how tough they truly are, I want to know what's going through their heads when they think that, because they've always these are type of guys that put themselves on the chopping block for other people. And what gets in their mind that now they think they want to take it. And it makes more sense to me that they think they're again saving other people, right, by ending their own lives.
Yeah.
And now I can understand that I can understand.
Yeah. I'm a burden to society, and I don't want someone to have to take care of me.
That's the only way that makes sense to me. It's the only time it's ever made sense to me. So, and I'd hate to take this and drive it down further, but, and I almost, after all we've talked, because we haven't talked about your childhood, I'd almost hate to go there, because you have so much more to offer than to just go right to the obvious of the thing that you struggled with and the thing that was really hard on you. And I think I don't want to just go at that.
Yeah.
But I also don't want people that are listening to this to not know what you've been through in case they've been through that.
Right.
And so what they're looking at when they see you, well-groomed, very fit, very accomplished human being, that the 99% of our society would love to be you. Right. In looks, in fitness, in career, in goals and aspirations, in every way. So to have you as that embodiment, and then to not also talk about what they may have also been through, would be an injustice.
So this experience of being sexually abused as a child impacts me every single day, and there's nothing I can do about it. It is something I will carry every single day of my life. But So why is that important? Because it showed me that I could go through something really fucking awful and still become something more than just an abused kid. The hardest thing that I think I have to deal with, and I think a lot of it stems from that identity, is that I don't see myself as accomplished as you say it, right? And it's something that I've worked on now for almost like 2 years, to say that the things that I've been through is remarkable. And I think that through the time of being an operator and being in the regiment for so long, we start to believe that everyone is that way, that everyone is a 1%er.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the norm. And so when I hear people say, like, you've done this, you've stood up in front of 3,500 people and told your story, and I'm like, fucking who cares? You were a Green Beret. You are a college, graduate. You have a master's degree. Like, you were an individual augmentee into Africa. You went on 5 combat deployments to Afghanistan. You're still married. You have 2 kids.
Fit as fuck.
Like,
Fit as fuck. Don't forget that, bro.
Yeah.
You're a unit, dude.
So, and that's it. Like, I don't look in the mirror and see that. I don't see all these accomplishments. And so, and I think a lot of that drives from that I don't hold myself up to anything to be bigger, right? And I think that a lot of that is grown a little bit in the military, but a lot in the Q course about this quiet professional. And I think that holding on to that quiet professional saying is hurting us a lot, because that's not what it means to not be honored for the things that you've done for this country and all the accomplishments that you have. I think that you must be honored for the things that you've accomplished and have done. The quiet professional thing is doing hard shit and leaving that stuff there and still coming back and being a professional. Like, there is the dirty side of what, the Army does. It's, we destroy and kill people for a living. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like holding that is hard. So growing up in poverty and gang banging and selling drugs and doing bad in school, being sexually molested, I like all of that encompasses who I am, right? I can't let that go, because it's that's the roots that my feet have to the ground, and I can't get rid of it. But accepting that has changed my perspective on life. I can't look at myself as this broken kid as my identity. I can't look at myself as a Green Beret as my identity. What do I see myself as is the most important part, right? So it's this nurturing father, this husband who wants to be a protector to the family. It's sharing my perspective to the world because of the things that I've been through in a lifetime of trauma. So all of those things play a part in a perspective that can't be bought and it can't be won. It has to be lived. And that's where I think I just learned about this concept of a wounded healer, is that there's people in this world that have been through some really fucking hard times, and be it sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, poor, and the gambit of things that make you have a really fucking hard life. That perspective over time allows you to see humanity different. There's really nothing that you can do to get that, like, broken heart, in a sense. Like, you must live with it in it for a really long time to be able to then look at someone and say, I can see in your eyes that you're broken. And for some reason, for us, that we can open and relate and have the same vision without saying anything at all. I know that guy understands what it's like to be from a really shitty place. And that, that's like this ride or die shit that people say, it's that guy will give everything for me. And it all stems back to a shitty fucking childhood. Mm-hmm. And it's as simple as that to me.
You know what I love that you said just now? Like, I just want to say it before I can't articulate it anymore, but you're saying, you're almost apologizing to people that haven't had a tumultuous childhood because this gift can't be given.
Right.
And that's something that people need to understand. And the beauty of it is we can't give you this gift.
Right.
But what we can do is empower the broken people to realize that they have the gift.
Yeah.
You can't choose it. You can't decide, I want to be like them, so I'm gonna go make myself really tough, and I'm gonna go choose a really hard childhood. My mom was addicted to drugs. She just passed away recently, living out of her car. I've only known my dad collectively for a few years of my life. Mm-hmm. We can't give that away. We can't give that. You have to have lived it. But what we can do is empower these people that think, because our whole childhoods, we were taught that if you had these lifestyles, if you've had these lives, you're fucked. Mm-hmm. You're low and you're going lower, and your destination is shit.
Correct.
And now we could say, for all you non-broken people, sorry, we can't help you. Mm-hmm. All you broken people, you have the gift.
Right.
And you're powerful.
Right. It's a perspective of the world that a non-abused person can't have. There's a way to see the world after you've lived through some really hard times that it makes society really hard to understand, and why there is so many people suffering from drug abuse, homelessness, that from just poverty and all, and not having food, and being able just to live as a human being at the bare minimum, like, boggles my mind, and how we allow that to happen to people. Like, I understand my parents made a fucking choice But why don't I just like, where's the compassion for people? How can you walk past people sleeping on the side of the highway, or go past the food bank and not even look at people who are suffering? And it doesn't matter. Like, do you put yourself into that life and think about, how did that person get here? How are they not moving on with their life? I think that when you come from a background of trauma, it hurts ourselves. And so then going and deploying into a place where there's a lot of poverty, where people have nothing, and we can make a difference, is so empowering, because I know that really small place, like, I can change lives. Where here it's just too vast that I can't change LA. I can't change Portland. I can't change Nashville. I personally can't do that. But in the Army, on an ODA, I can. And it's fucking awesome.
It is.
It's so empowering that if you could see that, like, that you have that ability to make a change in someone's life. And that's why getting into talking about my life is so impactful to me, and that's the drive that I have today about wanting and willingness to share the life that I've been through, is because I see the hope that it can give people. And there's a lot of value into it. It's just taken me a long time to develop it and shape it in a manner that is worthy for consumption, I guess. Because it's easy to take things and money to a small village in Afghanistan and just be there, provide protection. I think it's easier to be a policeman than it is to empower people through just actions and voice, right? I think it's a total different, separate thing. Like, one's really, I'm just there, and that physical sense is doing it. And now I'm like, hey, I want to empower you to do some introspection, to learn some skills, and that now you can go ahead and do that. Like, I can tell you all the things that you need to do, but you're the only person that can work on them on yourself. So like mindfulness and taking care of your physically, your body, eating well, sleeping well, like all of these things, right? And it goes to get a good mental health regimen, we'll say, is a lifetime of work. So a lifetime of trauma into a lifetime of a profession into the next part of wellness, we'll call it, is pretty kind of neat to me. If you were going to say, like, look at it as phases of your life, you can say this is the phase as a kid where it was really shitty. This is the phase where I became an amazing person and a professional. And then I became a person who is well developed, that can take care of myself and other people. It's pretty cool to be able to do that. And if you can, and that's why it's great to be able to share this, be like, that was the past. That's who I was. I grew out of that and became something else. That was the past. I learned a lot, and now I grew on to something else. And now wherever you're at in your life, like, that's where I'm going to be the best at it that I can. And I want to impact the same back to back, from the beginning. Like, I want to be impactful to other people. And I did it when I was a younger man. And now as I've gotten older and wiser and learned that through my own introspection and through living my life, that it's worth sharing, because the shit's fucking gold, right?
It is.
And so, be vulnerable, share your life. Your story means something. Someone will always give you a chance. It's out there. I don't know how long it will be, but somebody wants to help. And I've seen it, through all the nonprofits, through all the things that I see that's happening and throughout the nation for veterans. Like, the help is there.
Yeah, it's almost like there's more people standing up to help than there are veterans willing to raise their hand saying they need help.
No one will ever look at you as being weak for asking for help. It might feel that way at first.
Even when you talked about when you finally raised your hand and said, "I need help," you put anxiety into me. Because when you said that, you're essentially derailing everything that we are taught to do and what got us to this point. And that is stay in line, because if you're on the train, you're going to get to the destination. If you selection, if you want to quit, you have to get off the train. All my friends are on the train. Everything I want is
that gives me anxiety to think that I'm going to quit.
Yes.
I don't.
But you're essentially having to you have to derail from the train to say I need help, because your boys are going this direction. You're going to deployment, and then they're ready to go, and you have to say, wait a minute, time out. I have to get off, and then I'll get back on once I get help. Yeah. But that's just as scary to me as
I don't. Yeah, I don't. No way. I actually I think for the mental health perspective, physical thing is maybe on the other side of the train. I think if you do the mental health part right, you get to go to the next train station ahead, and you're waiting for them to show up.
Wow. Okay.
Because you are able to deal with a lot of the things that are holding you back. Being able to fix some TBI stuff, fix depression, fix suicide, fix some substance abuse stuff, getting that under control allows you to use your brain and your body so much better. You are so much more capable because you got off the train for a minute and got better. And it's hard to see that at first, because the amount of pain that you're going to go through at that train station is going to be fucking fucking bearable, because it isn't physical pain in the sense that we had to carry a fucking ruck, whatever. It's your own self fighting the demons of everything that's inside of you. The good thing is that you're not going to do it alone. You can try, and I tell you, it won't go fucking well. It's really difficult.
We're not equipped for that.
No, if you are in a place so fucking bad, you need to go to inpatient and allow people to help you. Because you can take however long of a time you need in a safe place to deal with the shit that you need to deal with. And so, to go back to my childhood stuff, that's the shit I needed to deal with so that I didn't drink. So I didn't feel like I was fucking dying inside. And I was able to really, really work on that because I made a choice to say, I'm going to live or I'm going to die? Which one do I want to do? And at that point, I was like, I'm choosing to live, but I'm also choosing whatever the Army gives me at the same time. Because I'm not going to be like, well, I have all these problems, and I'm going to tell the command I'm not going to do whatever they give me, offerings, right? And so I'm not going to be like, this say like, well, we're going to, say you stay in SWIC, or say, well, you're not going to send you back to group. You're not going to be a team sergeant, all this other stuff, because of the choice that I made to get better. And I said, well, I want to get better, but I don't want to leave the Army. Is there an E8 SF position anywhere? And yes, there is. And so to say that there's nothing beyond that certain job line that you have in your brain is ridiculous. And you shouldn't be so fixated on getting back onto that same train.
Mm-hmm.
There might be another train to come on that you can fucking help run. Right? So maybe at first for me it was go back to an ODA, do awesome work. And I decided it wasn't for me. Seeing people get killed again was too much. And I recognized it and I said, I can't watch another human die. And so I got home and I said, I got to go to SWIC. And that's how I went down to Key West. And then there, I was like, I really need to focus on me. And so how do I get better? And one of the things that I realized that I could take all of my memories and all my thoughts away. I started spearfishing when I was in Key West. And I accidentally started doing like breathing exercises, right? It's just
So
because
stay
it's
in the water
normal,
longer, yeah.
right? It's not even like on the surface, just holding my breath, go shoot a fish, come back up.
Right.
I started to recognize that like I was present in that moment, and that's the only thing that I saw.
During the breath holds?
Yeah, just as I'm holding my breath, swimming underwater, that environment was the only thing that I saw and the only thing that I felt in my brain. And so I start to recognize like I have control over what my brain is thinking. I can do it on my own. And so that's the spark of this mindfulness techniques that I didn't even realize existed. These coping mechanisms were not taught to me when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The things that you would think that like, this is how you deal with stress. This is a good way of dealing with stress and not using alcohol to get all your thoughts and memories to be blacked out. That you can actually kind of do that on your own. Developing safe spaces in your brain, like and in your body, and encompassing that and putting you centered into that was never shown to me until I'm 39 years old. So learning that kind of stuff, it's like having that superpower of your trauma. Now I have in my own body that I can take care of myself. But I couldn't have got that without other people and sitting down and learning something new and believing in it that can actually fucking work as well.
Who in particular were those? Were they psychs? Were they like mental health specialists that just study on their own? Like, who were the individuals that you found that were really helpful?
So when I was in the Emerald Coast Behavioral Hospital in Panama City Beach, I was doing EMDR, eye movement desensitization. It's like this light bar that they kind of put you in this trance. But before that, you have to build a safe space so that if something goes awry during your therapy session, that you can like get pulled out of it. And so
you're pulling yourself out by
thinking
about the safe space.
So in the beginning, they put you into the event that you're trying to work on. And for me, it was being like the first time I was abused by my stepfather, like that's what I'd go and see. And I'd like, it's almost like disassociative. Like I would watch the scene happening but I could feel it at the same time.
And they're sorry, I don't.
Yeah.
They're telling you the situation
No,
to get to relive,
so,
or you're just thinking yourself.
Yeah.
To
So like you write it out a whole bunch, and you kind of like relive it. They talk about it, and then you like
Holy
close your
shit,
mind,
dude.
and it's like happening again.
So they're
It's really
forcing you into the deep end of the pool and
it's fucking
drowning you in it.
Yeah, it's really
That's terrifying.
gross. It's really bad.
Fuck, that's terrifying.
Right. So 25% efficacy that it's going to help and work. Right. Really awful compared to going and getting ketamine and SGB. Different experience, less painful. So before that, you have to develop this safe space that you're going to. And so for me,
which is essentially like a warning that you're about to torture yourself.
yeah, in a way,
you need a safe word, a safe thought to get you out of torture.
Correct.
Holy shit, dude.
So you're doing it to yourself, right? And so I would just 3 times a week, over and over and over and over. And so it's just essentially desensitizing you from this event.
Okay.
Right? You're just reliving it, and your body's kind of like taking those memories, you'd sleep, and then put it back in the right order. So prior to that, I had to develop this safe place. And for me, in the beginning, it's like I'm like chained to the bottom of the ocean. But I'm looking up at the surface, and I can see the bottom of a boat, right? And as I breathe and put myself into that position, like the chains break, and I slowly, at the bottom of the ocean, it's real dark, and it slowly goes up into like clear water, super bright. You can kind of see the sun rays coming through, right? And so this is like how this is what I used on when I get stressed out and stuff. I can just do it in my mind when I have anxiety.
And when you say do it in your mind, you're the process of going from chain to
it's
surface is happening, and that's calming you down.
Right.
Okay.
And so I get to the boat. I can see that's like a beautiful white bottom, and I can I pull myself onto the transom or the back of the boat. I can like see the engines there. I can see all the inlay of the boat with this beautiful mahogany wood. I can just see it, like it just starts to grow in my brain, and I'm like sitting there. I'm like on the back of the boat. I can like see the sun rising. I can see the clouds. I can see birds. I can like feel the salt on my body. And so being able to have that at a moment's notice when life is too hard, I can just be there, be here with you, but be there at the same time and be calm.
Yeah, I love that.
And so being able to develop that safe space is a way that you can pretty much manage anything in your own body and brain without anything.
Fuck, I need that during traffic, bro.
So it's
I get road rage.
Just breathe. Right? You just breathe through it and put you in another place. You're here with me, but I can feel like everything is calm at the same time. So learning stuff like that truly is like, that's it? That's all I had to do? Like, why didn't anybody fucking tell us about this kind of thing when I was growing up, or all the years of therapy that I was going through? Like, you could just tell me I could just let it all go that way, and I didn't have to drink a case of beer a day. So by getting rid of that childhood trauma, like I didn't have a desire to drink anymore. And so I quit drinking like 4 years ago. But then 2 years later, I got introduced to the ketamine and the stellate ganglion block, dual sympathetic reset kind of thing. And then that experience is a little different. The ketamine is,
which I almost feel like it's safer for you because you've been playing with your thoughts already and learning to form that thought process, as to where if I went in and jumped in, I'm kind of letting Jesus take the wheel because I don't have that,
for sure,
that mind mastery yet.
Yeah. So this is going to go back to like, you can't go to SFAS and being Green Beret, right? You can't get trauma healed just by going and fucking getting ketamine or a block. doesn't it doesn't work because you have no fucking skills yet.
Right.
Like you're gonna go right back into the behavior, right back into the environment that fucking made you that way, and you have no way to deal with it. So let's not start there. That should be what's the cherry on top of everything. Is these, like, you've done some immense, hard, long work. Like, now let's go work on some other things, some other medicine that can help you. Now, I also believe that you could go do this stuff and do it almost reversed in a way as well. It's just not the path.
Start with the ketamine.
Yeah, it's
and
not the
then
path.
Form
Yeah.
the skills.
It's just not the path that I took, so I don't have a lot to say like that's the way to go. But if there's enough relief that you can start to build those skills, then you got to do it that way. But I can just speak on my behalf on that.
Right. And I personally, because I've known a lot of veterans that have gone the psychedelics route, I'm afraid personally to start doing that, even though I know that it's necessary. But you saying that about the ocean and the chains, something like that for me would make me feel more confident to go into what I know would help me. Because I need something that I could pull myself out. Right. Because I'm afraid to just let a psychedelic take me and me not control. Because honestly, I don't want to go to that super, super dark place that you subjected yourself to over and over and over again, because that's fucking terrifying. Right.
The ketamine psychedelic is like it's a two-part thing, right? There's the medicine that's on your brain that's doing some stuff, and then there's the trip of it. The trip for me showed and made me feel that this organism of my body was worth taking care of. I don't know. It's changed my perspective on who I was. And it's pretty interesting place to be in that ketamine does for you. It's a process that you go through. A lot of it is like, I feel no pain. All the dealings of the day, all the emails, the Instagram, all of that stuff is just faded away. And it's just one single human being living in this world is all you can comprehend. And then all I feel is this: I'm connected to all of the living things in the world are all one. So that's kind of like the psychedelic hippie shit that comes with psychedelics, is that it grows everyone together. The energy of all of us is somehow, some way rooted together throughout the whole entire world.
And you, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
It's
This
okay.
is motivating because what people don't realize, that especially angry people like myself and like temperamental people, is that we think we hate everyone. But the answer to fix that is by having some empathy and some love for other people. So maybe we could change the narrative. And this is something my wife does for me all the time, and it used to bother me. Instead of someone cutting me off or being a jerk because they're an asshole, maybe there's a reason that's not so hurtful, that's not attacking. You know, so when you say stuff like being hippied to start to feel one with everyone else, that's probably the answer for a lot of very angry people that have this negative view on others. And it's like, maybe if you just could connect with them a little bit, we'll stop hating them so much, and you will calm the fuck down.
So that goes back to saying that it's really hard to hate someone when you know their story. So how do you know that person in traffic's not having the worst day of their life?
Right.
And they can't see what's going on. You don't know. So just take a second and pause and say, does this really matter? Why am I letting this affect me in a bad way? Right? Like, let's kind of just float through life a little bit more. Why, like like let the situation develop. Right? We're good at that. Like take a tactical pause and let's just see it.
See what's real.
See what it is. But I think that like the ketamine does some real deep introspection on humanity. One of the hard parts of ketamine is that you feel like you're dying on it. It's really weird.
In a physical sense or an emotional and
all of it. So when I went in the hospital, I wanted to just feel like I was dead. I wanted all the pain to go away. I wanted just this life to end for a minute. And the ketamine allowed for that to happen without me dying. I thought that I saw myself die, and a nurse came in and was like, call his wife, he's dead.
Oh, shit. Can I get a glass? Yeah. Thanks, man.
So the ketamine allows you to feel that remorse and sadness and death. And then at the same time, it brings you this life back into you. And I needed it. And so when they're like, I was like, that is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I was like, this is what guys need when they show up and they say they want to fucking die. They need to show themselves this. Because this will connect them to the environment. This will connect them to the outdoors. This will connect them to themselves. This will connect them to the world that they've lost. And it was absolutely incredible. And then the dual sympathetic reset, what that did is like the doom and gloom was gone. Hypervigilance was gone. I didn't think someone was like going to walk up and do something bad to me or my family all the time.
I'm so tired of that, dude.
It's just, let it go. Like, stop pulling. Like, it's the ruck straps on my fucking shoulders all the time. And it's just fucking pulling on me. And I got to let it go. But I can't. I don't know what it is. You don't know what's going on. But it's just, you've been living on this constant fear of death that it's just, you've taken it to a point where it's just the norm of life is that you think you're going to die all the time. And it's like, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel on guard all the time. So it's 100%. Really good to like let that go away and then really start the aperture of the world open up. And it's so to have those moments is a huge driving, like why I want to talk to people, why it's so important to be like, these are skills and techniques and therapies and science that you can use to get better, to help you kind of get along the way. To me, it's the same thing as why you go to HPW, why you go to P3. Like, these are all enhancing things to fucking make your life better. And for you to not be willing to dive into all of the different bins of making life better, like, you're doing yourself a disservice. Why would you only just go to the gym? Like, why wouldn't you go get sleep study? Why wouldn't you go to see the dietitian so you can have a stronger body? Because at the end of as I've gotten to the end of my career, like, I'm trying to live till I'm 80. And or beyond that is I have to be as strong as I possibly can be for as long as I possibly can be. I must keep my body in a good condition, my mind in a good condition, so that I can perform when I have grandkids. So if my kids were swimming or in the ocean, like, I can be there with them. Like, I can physically do the same things that they are doing, because that to me is a father and a man. Like, those are the things that you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And so those are struggles that I have with society, is that you have one body, you have one life, you have one heart and one brain. Why aren't you taking care of it as long as possible? But also remember, like, I was in a bad fucking place for a really long time and didn't see all that. And if that's where you are and you make the choice to get better, you make the choice to find something that makes you more comfortable with your life, that there are people out there and organizations out there that want to help you move on from that space. Being in a bad place in your life might last 20 years. And I don't see that there's anything wrong with that in a way. But at some point, you truly are going to make a decision of what the fuck you want to do. And I hope that it's not too fucking far gone for a lot of people. And for some folks, that there's nothing that as a society can do. I want to talk about fentanyl and fucking heroin for a second, but those hooks insides of people's fucking sides from those types of drugs, there's nothing they can do about it. And it's an epidemic fucking destroying America, that we are trying to say that it's their fucking fault and it's their choice to put those things in their body. But I will tell you, being addicted to opium and opiates and injecting myself with fucking drugs, like, you are literally hanging from a meat fucking hook and you can't pull yourself fucking out of it. So stop assuming that those people can do it on their own. It's slowly rotting fucking America, and it's I don't know. It causes me a lot of fucking pain and a lot of sadness to see people living a life in a body that their brain is telling them something that they can't fucking control. To me, it's the same as being abused and holding that in my brain and not letting it fucking be able to go. Like, I use this analogy of being in the bottom of a pool and like holding yourself in, like those same chains are holding you down. And you can look to the surface and say that's the better life, but in front of you is the things that are holding you there. And that thing means more to you than your next breath of air. And there's nothing you can do about it. The voices in your head is so fucking strong, and it's your soul, it's your body, it's your brain. Everything is driving you for that next hit of that drug, that there's nothing you can do about it. And it's very similar to getting in gunfights. Like, the voice in my head says, go the fuck back there because you can fucking win it. And it's the same drug that tells me that all the pain will fucking go away. And to leave and try to walk away from that is extremely difficult to do. And you cannot, for my belief, do it on your own. You have to get help from other people. And so a lot of success from trauma, from drug abuse, from all this stuff comes from people around you. Because I don't think people survive alone. I don't. So, like, allow people to help you.
I love that. Man, when you said that your hard times could last 20 years, that was my mom, is when it just being addicted for, 37? So, 25 years of addiction. And then when you're going to make that choice, it's like the time could run out.
Mm-hmm.
And she died in her car a couple months ago.
Sorry.
Thanks. Sorry. I bring it up just because it's not to like.
The problem is it's so common.
Right.
That it's becoming so common that people are being okay with it. It's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like your time could run out, and you could die having not made a decision to try, like, or not say that they're not trying, to having not made the decision to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And you could just die at the bottom of the barrel, forgotten. Like nobody went to my mom's funeral. I didn't go. Like, she didn't have a funeral, dude. Like, she didn't even fucking have a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
That's how bad over 25 years she's burned her family members, everyone that she knows so bad that people won't even go to your deathbed to like say bye to you.
Yeah.
And you can't even blame them. I think my sister is the only one that went of all my entire family. Maybe my sister is probably the only one that went. And the painful part is the hope is gone now. 25 years of drug addiction and just treating people so poorly that your only but there was always a glimmer of hope that turnaround point could come. And then the end could come and there'll no longer be any hope and it'll just be over.
Yeah.
So I hope that anybody listening to this would decide sooner rather than later, like you said, to find that help and to reach out to other people and accept that it's not weakness to seek help, but maybe it's the only way is to seek it through other people. You're not failing or getting off the train. Like you said, you're going to the next station to meet everybody on that train.
Yeah.
You're getting on from a locomotive to a speed train.
Yeah.
Because you're asking for group. I mean, we go to church. If you believe in God, you go to church for a reason. It's because once we get together and we start praying all in the same room, there's more power to that.
Sure.
The community of it is more powerful. So hopefully people could hear your words and see that, okay, maybe it's time to raise my hand and like ask.
Yeah.
So let's end with this. The one thing I will always say, and I've always said since I was a kid, I've always known since I was, as long as I could remember, I was never sexually assaulted. And that was my claim to, it's, you know what I mean? Yeah. That's what got me through. I got shot at. I've had my mom beat me, sit on my chest until I hyperventilated, beat me with broomsticks, boyfriends shoot guns through our houses, just all the crazy shit, right? But I never had that, and I could always hold on to that. So and I don't want you to talk about it. I don't, because I don't. What would you say to the people? The last thing I want to leave on this is the other men out there that have been through what you've been through. Speak to them. As we end it, what would you say to them? You're a Green Beret, master's degree, again, all those accolades, and this happened to you, which is something I can't even imagine having to be in a alpha male environment, having known that's happened to you. I mean, we can unpack that alone for days, but let's not. Let's just. If you could just talk to them for 1 second or 1 minute to give them some kind of hope or guidance, what would that be to them?
There's more people, more men that have had this happen than you realize. In our community and in our nation, that you cannot be ashamed about what has happened to you. That is an adult that took advantage of a child. That the way it felt was not your choice. The desire to have it happen to you is normal. Those feelings are the strongest drug your body will ever have in it released. That the way that it felt is normal. It's your body's biological response to a human being's touch. There's nothing you can do about that. It took me over 25 years to finally realize that it wasn't me that wanted it to happen, that someone took advantage of me for their own personal gratification. But it eroded everything inside of me because I felt like I wanted it to happen. That choice was taken away from me. And it took my innocence and everything that I had. But all of those things that have been stripped away from that person can be grown back, and society and the way that you see the world doesn't have to be this dark, evil place. That you can get and grow and maybe not be broken, but maybe just be a little bent from your past. And that makes you a better human because you went through something like that.
That's amazing. Thanks, man. And I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate the fact that you're willing to talk about this stuff. Again, I don't know if people understand the position that you're in, that you're currently in the hierarchy of special operations and how high that is. And then to say that at that peak moment, I think it's a very, very pivotal and telling time to come out and be like, I'm going to help people with trauma, right? Yeah. Because that's the time when you could very well just ride it into the sunset and be like, no one knows I had this perfect career, and get out and then tell a completely you have many stories you could be telling.
Yeah. The problem with that is that it takes a long time to get better. And I didn't want to get better after I got out of the Army, because it's taken 5-6 years to move on from the war, my personal life, and that I didn't want to get out and have to spend another 5 years to get better. So I made a choice that instead of going even further into my career, that I was going to stop and find the thing I love, take care of myself, and start building that next career before I got out of this 24-year career of being in the Army. Because I think it's too late. It's the way that the world works is it's building something takes a lot of time. Right? Becoming a Green Beret and building that and who you are and that identity took a lot of time to get. So now let's redo that again into something that gives you a fire that you had to go to SFAS and become an operator. Have you found that thing before you got the fuck out? And for people to continuously say, I don't know what I'm going to do out of the Army after I get out, you're already wrong. Why are you not focusing on what life is next? Because if you got in when you're 18 and you're 38, you got a whole nother life to live, and you haven't put any time or effort into what that's going to be, you're setting yourself up for extreme failure and heartbreak. And to think that that's not going to impact you later on because you didn't spend that time to figure out what's right for me, because it's not about money. It's about purpose. What is the purpose that you want to have after you just led a whole life of purpose an identity. Like, let's grow out of that identity, become something new, become something that's purposeful and meaningful to you in your life.
Love it. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Abel's giving us the time. Dude, great talk, dude. Oh, I feel like a hug is in order after that.
There you go.
Dude.
Awesome.
And it's a wrap.